You have committed a cardinal sin in the architecture of power. You have become predictable. Look at your life. You answer every text within seconds. You accept every invitation without a second thought. You are always there, always available, always a certainty in a world of variables. And yet, you wonder why you are treated like an afterthought. You wonder why your voice carries no weight, and your presence commands no silence. You are drowning in the noise of your own accessibility, and in doing so, you have stripped yourself of the only currency that matters: scarcity. Today, we stop the bleeding. We are going to deconstruct the fallacy of your kindness and replace it with a weaponized shadow. By the time we are finished, you will no longer be a convenient option. You will become a void, a chilling, calculated absence that demands to be filled. You will learn the art of the exit, the strategy of the silence, and the cold reality of the sovereign man. You will become as untouchable as Thomas Shelby, a man who built an empire not just with bullets, but with the terrifying power of his own withdrawal. The secrets of the Peaky Blinders were not born in the mud of Birmingham alone. They are the realization of a philosophy centuries old. What Tommy mastered in the 20th century, Niccolò Machiavelli codified in the 16th. Men are so simple, and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. If you are not the one engineering the perception of your value, you are the victim of someone else's convenience. If you are ready to stop being the background character in your own life and start playing the game for keeps, prove it. This is not for the weak. Comment "I am the storm" right now to signal your commitment to the path of power. Subscribe to this channel to join the 1% who understand that in the social chess match, the most powerful piece is the one that vanishes when the trap is set. The more they see of you, the less they value you. This is the iron law of human psychology that the common man fails to grasp because his ego demands constant validation. He believes that by being present, he is being relevant. He is wrong. In the theater of power, presence is a resource, and like any resource, its value is determined by its scarcity. When you are always available, you are not a leader. You are furniture. You are expected. And because you are expected, you are ignored. To understand the mastery of strategic scarcity, we must look at the soot-stained tracks of the Birmingham racecourse, where Thomas Shelby first encountered the king of the tracks, Billy Kimber. Tommy did not go to Kimber's office with a hat in his hand, begging for a seat at the table. He did not flood Kimber with requests or show up at his doorstep like a common beggar. Instead, Tommy engineered a scenario where his absence was a loud, ringing bell. He sent a message that he was moving in on Kimber's territory, and then he waited. When the meeting was finally set, Tommy did not arrive early to show his respect. He arrived with a cold, calculated rhythm. He walked into that room as if he already owned the air Kimber was breathing. He was brief. He was precise. He said exactly what was necessary, and not a syllable more. By controlling the clock and refusing to linger, Tommy forced Kimber to realize that Shelby's time was more valuable than Kimber's money. He created a vacuum of information and presence that Kimber felt compelled to fill with concessions. The internal psychology of Thomas Shelby in this moment is a masterpiece of sovereignty. He understands that every second he spends in the presence of an enemy or a superior is a risk. Familiarity allows your opponent to see your tics, to hear the tremor in your voice, and to map the boundaries of your intellect. By withdrawing, Tommy remains an enigma. He knows that in the mind of Billy Kimber, the Thomas Shelby that isn't there is much more terrifying than the one who is. The absence allows Kimber's own insecurities to do the work for him. This is the ghost of Small Heath, a man who is felt even when he is miles away. Tommy doesn't seek to be liked. He seeks to be a permanent fixture in the thoughts of his rivals. He knows that if he stays too long, the mystery evaporates, and he becomes just another man with a gun. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his timeless treatise, The Prince, explores this exact dynamic when discussing how a ruler should avoid being held in contempt. Machiavelli argues that a prince is held in contempt if he is considered variable, light, effeminate, pusillanimous, or irresolute. To combat this, a ruler must strive to make his actions show greatness, spirit, gravity, and fortitude. But more importantly, Machiavelli understood that a prince must maintain a certain distance from the masses. If the people see the prince every day, eating, sleeping, and making mistakes, the divine aura of leadership vanishes. He becomes a common man, and common men are easily replaced. Scarcity creates a sense of gravity. When you are rarely seen and rarely heard, every appearance becomes an event. Your words are weighed like gold because they are rare. Your presence is felt like a shift in the weather because it is infrequent. In the modern world, you are failing this test every single day. You live in an era of hyperconnectivity where the common man is perpetually plugged in. You respond to emails at midnight, you post your every thought on social media, and you jump at every social invitation because you fear the FOMO, the fear of missing out. You are terrified that if you aren't there, you will be forgotten. But look at the result. You are disrespected. Your boss gives you more work because they know you won't say no. Your friends cancel on you at the last minute because they know you'll be there next time anyway. You have no sovereignty because you have no boundaries. To apply the law of strategic scarcity today, you must begin the process of the Great Withdrawal. This is not a tantrum, it is a recalibration of your status. If a plan is made last minute, your answer is no. Do not explain why. A sovereign man does not offer excuses. He offers his unavailability. If you are in a meeting or a social gathering and the conversation turns to gossip or low-value noise, you exit. You don't need to make a scene. You simply cease to be there. Let them wonder where you went. When you are texting, stop the double texting immediately. If they don't respond, let the silence hang there like a noose. The silence is your negotiator. It forces the other person to confront the fact that they have lost access to you. The sovereign man understands that his energy is a finite currency. He does not spend it on those who do not pay the price of respect. By becoming scarce, you force the world to reevaluate your worth. You shift from being a commodity to being a luxury. Commodities are cheap and easy to find. Luxuries are expensive and require effort to obtain. Thomas Shelby never asked for respect. He simply made it impossible for others to function without him, and then he made them wait for his arrival. Start making them wait. Start making them wonder. Start making them feel the cold chill of your absence. And watch how quickly the tone of their voice changes when you finally decide to reappear. This is the first step toward sovereignty. You are no longer the one waiting for the world to notice you. You are the one the world is waiting for. Never let them see the blood. This is the second commandment in the architecture of absolute sovereignty. The common man is a creature of reaction. When he is stung, he winces. When he is insulted, he reddens. When he is betrayed, he screams. He wears his heart like a target on his sleeve, and he wonders why the world finds it so easy to pierce. He believes that by showing his authentic pain, he is gaining sympathy. But in the cold reality of the social hierarchy, he is only broadcasting his vulnerability. He is showing his enemies exactly where the armor is thin. To be a sovereign, you must learn to exist in the emotional void. You must become the mirror that reflects nothing back but the other person's own growing fear. To master this calculated coldness, we must witness the psychological carnage of the distillery in Birmingham. Consider the moment Alfie Solomons, a man Tommy considered a twisted kind of brother, admits to a betrayal that should have burned Tommy's world to the ground. In that dim, dust-filled room, the air is heavy with the scent of gin and impending death. A common man would have lunged. He would have shouted about loyalty and honor. He would have let his eyes fill with the tears of a broken heart. But look at Thomas Shelby. He stands there, perfectly still, his face a mask of impenetrable marble. His eyes are not filled with rage. They are filled with an absolute, terrifying zero. He looks at Alfie not as a friend who hurt him, but as a biological specimen that has outlived its utility. He removes the warmth of their history in a single, silent heartbeat. By refusing to react emotionally, Tommy denies Alfie the satisfaction of seeing the impact of the blow. He leaves Alfie screaming into a void, forcing the traitor to confront the fact that he no longer exists in Tommy's world of relevance. The internal psychology of Thomas Shelby in this moment is one of total emotional liquidation. He understands that emotion is a tax on the intellect. The moment you hate someone, they own a piece of your mind. The moment you fear them, they control your heartbeat. By maintaining a state of calculated coldness, Tommy preserves 100% of his cognitive resources for the counterstrike. He isn't suppressing his anger. He is converting it into cold, hard data. He is analyzing the distance between them, the state of the room, and the next 3 moves of the Italian mob. He is a ghost in his own body, watching the scene from a height that no mortal emotion can reach. This is the dead man's gaze, a look that tells your opponent that you have already processed their death and moved on to more important matters. It is the ultimate display of status, because it proves that nothing your opponent does can actually reach your core. You are, quite literally, untouchable. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master of the Florentine courts, understood that the preservation of power depends on the management of fear. In the 17th chapter of The Prince, he famously asks whether it is better to be loved than feared. His conclusion is chillingly practical. Since men love at their own pleasure, and fear at the pleasure of the prince, a wise prince should build his foundation on what is his own, not on what belongs to others. Love is a contract that the common man breaks the moment it becomes inconvenient. Fear, however, is a bond that is held by a dread of punishment, which never fails. But Machiavelli warns that a prince must avoid being hated. The bridge between fear and hatred is often found in irrational emotional outbursts. If a ruler kills in a rage, he is hated. If he kills with a cold, judicial necessity, he is feared and respected. By adopting the Shelby mask of coldness, you are practicing Machiavellian stability. You are showing the world that your actions are not governed by the whims of your temper, but by the cold calculations of your destiny. In your modern life, you are bleeding out in front of everyone. When someone interrupts you in a meeting, you get defensive. When a woman ghosts you or treats you with disrespect, you send a long, emotional paragraph explaining why you're hurt. You are giving them the blood they are looking for. You are confirming that their actions have power over your internal state. You are handing them the remote control to your life. Stop it. If you want to be a sovereign, you must learn to use the gray rock method weaponized by Shelby's intensity. When someone attempts to provoke you, give them nothing. No raised voice, no flared nostrils, no sarcastic retort. Just a long, level stare that lasts 2 seconds too long, followed by a polite, brief dismissal. Apply this in your career. When a colleague tries to take credit for your work or speaks down to you, do not argue. Look at them with the same detached curiosity you would use to examine a bug on a windshield. Say, "I see. We'll discuss the data later." Then, turn your back. You have just signaled that their attempt at dominance was so insignificant, it didn't even register as a threat. Apply this in your personal life. If someone disrespects your time, do not complain. Do not ask for an apology. Simply withdraw your attention entirely. Move them from the inner circle to the outer darkness without a single word of explanation. When they eventually ask what's wrong, do not give them the satisfaction of a grievance. Tell them, "Nothing is wrong. I've just been focused on other priorities." You are the storm that has moved on, leaving them in the cold silence of your departure. This is how you reclaim your throne. You don't fight for respect. You make it the only air they are allowed to breathe when they are in your presence. Never let them map your mind. To be understood is to be captured. The common man is a book with a broken spine and large print. Anyone with a wandering eye can read his secrets, his fears, and his next 3 moves. He speaks to fill the silence, he explains himself to seek approval, and he broadcasts his intentions because he wants the world to cheer for him before he's even started the race. This predictability is a death sentence in the Zadrez social. If they know what you are going to do, they can build a wall where you intend to walk. If they know how you think, they can set a trap that fits your logic perfectly. To be a sovereign, you must become a moving target. You must master the art of the unpredictable withdrawal, the ability to vanish and shift just when they think they have you cornered. Consider the atmosphere of Thomas Shelby's wedding. It is a moment of supposed joy, a rare truce in a life of perpetual war. The family is gathered, the drink is flowing, and the world believes that for one day, Tommy is just a man. But look closer. In the middle of the celebration, Tommy gathers his brothers in the kitchen for the legendary "no fighting" speech. He is physically present in the mansion, but mentally he is miles away in the trenches of his next strategic expansion. He has barked orders with a ferocity that borders on the divine. He creates a vacuum of authority where no one, not his brothers, not his enemies, and certainly not the guests, can predict his next state of mind. He goes from the stoic groom to the ruthless commander in a fraction of a second. By maintaining this internal distance, even during his most human moments, he keeps everyone around him in a state of high-alert suspense. No one dares to cross him because no one knows where the line is today. He has made his mind an uncharted territory. The psychology behind this unpredictability is a refined form of dominance. Tommy knows that human beings are pattern recognition machines. We feel safe when we can categorize someone. He's the angry one. He's the funny one. He's the reliable one. The moment you allow yourself to be categorized, you are managed. Tommy refuses to be managed. He breaks the pattern before it can settle. He shows warmth only to withdraw it instantly. He shows mercy only to follow it with a cold execution. This creates a psychological state in his rivals known as intermittent reinforcement. They become obsessed with trying to figure him out. They spend their nights wondering what he meant by that look, or why he left the room so abruptly. While they are busy analyzing his past, Tommy is already executing his future. He understands that the most powerful man in the room is the one who doesn't need to be understood. Niccolò Machiavelli, in the 18th chapter of The Prince, discusses the necessity of the ruler to be both a fox and a lion. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. To be a sovereign, you must be a fox to recognize the traps and a lion to frighten the wolves. But the core of being a fox is the ability to disguise your nature. Machiavelli writes that a prince must be a great pretender and dissembler. Men are so simple that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. Your withdrawal is your greatest act of dissembling. When you vanish, you are not just hiding, you are resetting the board. You are forcing your enemies to shadow box with a ghost. By being unpredictable, you are practicing a high-level Machiavellian defense. If they cannot find you, they cannot strike you. In your modern existence, you are far too easy to map. Your digital footprint alone tells the world exactly what you value, who you envy, and where you spend your time. You are a slave to the status update. In your professional life, everyone knows exactly how you'll react to a critique. In your social life, everyone knows you'll be the one to text first after a fight. You are a known quantity, and known quantities are easily discarded. To break this, you must introduce strategic turbulence into your life. You must learn to disappear when everyone expects you to stay. Start with your digital presence. If you are a constant poster, go dark for 7 days. No explanation. No taking a break announcement. Just silence. Let the people who take you for granted look at your empty stories and wonder if you've moved on to something better than them. In your social circles, learn the early exit. Go to the party, be the most engaging man in the room for exactly 30 minutes, and then leave at the absolute peak of the night. Do not say goodbye to everyone. Just walk out. The next morning, they won't remember the jokes told by the guy who stayed until 3 a.m. They will be talking about why you left. You have created a mystery. You have withdrawn your presence commodity at the moment of its highest value. In your career, do not broadcast your ambitions. Don't tell your coworkers about the new course you're taking or the side business you're building. Work in the shadows. When you finally reveal your move, let it be a finished product, not a plan. By being unpredictable, you create an aura of dangerous competence. People will begin to treat you with a new level of caution because they realize they don't know where your limits are. You are no longer a piece on their board. You are the one moving the table. Thomas Shelby didn't build his empire by being the most transparent man in Birmingham. He built it by being the one who could walk into the fog and come out with the world in his pocket. Start walking into the fog. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them realize that the man they thought they knew has already been replaced by someone they cannot even begin to comprehend. A man who cannot walk away is a slave. You must etch this truth into the marrow of your bones if you ever intend to climb out of the gutter of mediocrity. The world is filled with people who are trapped in dead-end jobs, trapped in toxic relationships, trapped in social circles that drain their vitality. They stay because they are afraid of the nothingness that waits on the other side of the door. They stay because they have been conditioned to believe that any presence is better than an absence. They are wrong. In the architecture of power, the ability to exit is the only leverage you truly possess. If your opponent knows you cannot leave, they don't need to negotiate with you. They only need to dictate terms. To be a sovereign, you must be the man who is always prepared to walk out of the room, leaving everything behind, if the price of staying is your dignity or your strategic advantage. To understand the cold mechanics of the sovereignty of the exit, we must look at the psychological warfare waged between Thomas Shelby and the Russian Duchess, Tatiana Petrovna. Imagine the setting: a world of staggering wealth, ancient titles, and a level of decadence that would blind a common man. Tatiana is not just a woman. She is a representation of chaos, luxury, and lethal unpredictability. She attempts to pull Tommy into her orbit of madness using seduction and the sheer weight of her aristocratic status. In one particular encounter, she plays with him like a cat with a mouse, surrounded by the opulence of her temporary palace. A common man would be intoxicated. He would be bought by the proximity to such power and beauty. He would linger, hoping for a scrap of her favor. But look at Thomas Shelby. Even in the midst of this sensory onslaught, he remains a singular, detached entity. He does not allow the environment to define his value. When the interaction no longer serves his grand strategy, he doesn't linger for a drink or a compliment. He simply leaves. He walks out of the palace and back into the cold Birmingham rain without a backward glance. He proves that he is not a guest in her world. He is a force of nature that happened to be passing through. The internal psychology of Thomas Shelby in these moments is a masterclass in the detachment of the sovereign. Tommy understands that stuff, wealth, sex, status, comfort is all noise. He has a high-resolution internal map of his goals, and anything that does not align with that map is irrelevant. He views the Duchess and her world as a temporary tactical landscape, nothing more. By being able to walk away mid-sentence, Tommy communicates a terrifying truth to his enemies. I do not need you. This is the ultimate psychological weapon. When you signal that you are prepared to lose the relationship, the job, or the deal, you instantly become the person in control. You have shifted the burden of need onto the other person. Tommy knows that by walking away, he makes the Duchess chase him. He becomes the prize, not the petitioner. He uses the exit to reset the power dynamic, ensuring that when they meet again, it is on his terms, in his smoke-filled office, where the rules are written in Shelby blood. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his analysis of the rise and fall of princes, emphasized that a leader must be able to change his nature according to the wind of fortune. He argued that many rulers fail because they become too attached to a single way of acting or a single alliance. They become slaves to their current circumstances. Machiavelli's virtù is the ability to recognize when a situation has turned against you and to have the cold-blooded resolve to abandon it before it pulls you under. The prince must never be sentimental. If a fortress is no longer defensible, he burns it and moves on. If a treaty is no longer beneficial, he breaks it. This is not betrayal in the eyes of the strategist. It is the necessary preservation of sovereignty. To Machiavelli, the man who stays in a losing game out of loyalty or fear is not a hero. He is a victim. The sovereign man recognizes that his only true loyalty is to his own purpose and his own survival. In the modern world, you are acting like a slave because you have forgotten how to use the door. You stay in a job where you are disrespected because you are afraid of 3 months of uncertainty. You stay in a relationship where you are an option because you are afraid of sleeping alone. You are invested, and that investment has become your cage. This is what psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy, and it is the death of power. To reclaim your sovereignty, you must begin to practice the power walkaway in every facet of your life. It starts with the small things. If you are in a restaurant and the service is intentionally disrespectful, do not complain to the manager like a common Karen. Simply stand up and walk out. Let them deal with the empty table. If you are on a date and the person is checking their phone or being dismissive, do not try harder to impress them. Pay for your half of the drinks, say, "This isn't for me," and walk out mid-anecdote. Do not wait for a polite moment. The moment they disrespected you, they forfeited the right to your politeness. Apply this to your career. If your employer refuses to recognize your value, stop quiet quitting and start active exiting. Build your escape tunnel in the dark, and when the time is right, vanish. No 2-week notice of gratitude, just a cold professional departure that leaves a gaping hole in their operations. By being the man who can leave, you become the man they are terrified of losing. When you walk away from a disrespectful situation, you aren't losing anything. You are gaining yourself. You are sending a signal to your own subconscious that you are a high-value entity that does not tolerate contamination. The void you leave behind is not a failure. It is your throne. Thomas Shelby didn't become a king by being a permanent fixture in other people's lives. He became a king by being the man who could lose everything and still walk away with his head held high. Start walking. Silence is a weapon. Learn to fire it. The common man is terrified of a vacuum. When there is a lull in conversation, he panics and fills it with meaningless chatter. When he is hurt, he fills the air with justifications. When he is absent, he sends check-in texts to make sure he hasn't been forgotten. He is a fixer of social gaps, always trying to smooth things over, always trying to bridge the distance. But in doing so, he makes himself common. He makes his presence a given. To be a sovereign, you must understand the strategic utility of the ghost in the room. You must learn to weaponize the silence of your absence. You must allow things to break, allow the chaos to rise, and allow people to fail, all while you remain unreachable. You must make them feel the weight of the vacuum you leave behind, until the silence becomes so loud that they are forced to scream for your return. To see the ghost in action, we must look at the devastating aftermath of the death of Grace Shelby. Thomas Shelby, the man who held the entire architecture of the Shelby Company Limited together, vanishes. He doesn't go to a board meeting to discuss the crisis. He doesn't hold a family summit to reassure his brothers. He retreats to the mountains, alone, into a world of mist and silence. In his absence, the empire begins to rot from the inside out. Arthur loses his grip on his sanity. Polly struggles to maintain order. The business deals begin to fray at the edges. The family, which had become so used to Tommy's brain doing all the heavy lifting, suddenly realizes they are nothing but children playing in the mud without him. By withdrawing into the ghost state, Tommy does more for his authority than 1,000 speeches ever could. He makes them confront the terrifying reality of a world without Thomas Shelby. He turns his absence into a mirror that reflects their own incompetence back at them. When he finally returns, he doesn't need to ask for respect. They are practically begging him to take the reins. The internal psychology of Thomas Shelby during this withdrawal is a cold calculation of indispensability. Tommy knows that people only value the sun when it's winter. He understands that by being the fixer who is always there to solve every crisis, he has actually weakened his subordinates. He has made them dependent, and dependency breeds a subtle kind of resentment. By vanishing, he forces them to experience the consequence of their own existence without his protection. He isn't being petty or emotional. He is conducting a stress test on his organization. He sits in the silence of the mountains, processing his own grief, yes, but also observing from a distance. He is letting the fires burn, so that when he comes back to put them out, his status as the Messiah of Birmingham is solidified. He weaponizes the void to ensure that no one ever dares to question his necessity again. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this dynamic perfectly when he discussed the relationship between a prince and his subjects. He argued that a wise ruler must always ensure that his citizens, in every variety of state and circumstance, feel the need for the state and for him. Only then will they always be faithful to him. If the people feel they can survive and thrive without the prince is in danger. Therefore, the prince must occasionally allow the people to feel the chill of the lawless night. He must allow them to see what happens when the hand of authority is withdrawn. Machiavelli's prince is not a helicopter parent to his people. He is a stern architect who knows that the fear of chaos is the greatest glue for loyalty. By becoming the ghost, you are applying this Machiavellian principle to your personal and professional life. You are reminding the world that your service is a privilege, not a right. In your modern life, you are suffering from the fixer trap. You are the friend who always gives advice, the employee who always covers for the slacker, the partner who always initiates the talk to fix the relationship. You think you are being valuable, but you are actually being used. Because you are always there to catch the falling glass, no one bothers to be careful with it. You have removed the consequence from the lives of the people around you. To break this cycle, you must become the ghost. When someone disrespects your boundaries or fails to meet your standards, do not explain it to them for the 10th time. Simply stop fixing the fallout. If a project at work is failing because a colleague is being lazy, let it fail. Do not stay late to fix it. Let the manager see the wreckage. If your partner is being distant or disrespectful, do not chase them with questions. Withdraw your energy, your attention, and your physical presence. Go dark. This is the strategic silence. You aren't mad. You aren't ghosting out of weakness. You are simply removing the Shelby factor from their lives. Let them deal with the silence. Let them deal with the chaos that arises when your competence is no longer there to stabilize the room. The common man fears the silence because he thinks it means he's losing. The sovereign man loves the silence because he knows it's the sound of his value being recalculated in the minds of others. When they finally come to you, and they will, with the ruins of their situation in their hands, do not be happy to see them. Be a professional. Treat their return like a business negotiation. You have made them feel the weight of your absence. Now, make them pay the price for your return. Thomas Shelby didn't build an empire by being the most helpful man in the room. He built it by being the only man the room couldn't survive without. Make them feel the void. Respect is not requested. It is commanded. This is the final stage of your evolution, the moment where the strategic shadow you have cultivated becomes a physical reality that others must bow to. The common man, in his infinite thirst for validation, believes that if he is good enough, kind enough, or loyal enough, respect will be granted to him like a participation trophy. He is wrong. Respect is a territory that must be seized and fortified. If you ask for it, you have already admitted that you do not possess it. To be a sovereign, your return from absence must not be an act of reconnection. It must be a demonstration of superior force. You do not come back to join the circle. You come back to redraw it. To witness the ultimate reclamation of the throne, we must look at the moment Thomas Shelby emerges from the depths of his own strategic isolation to face the vendetta of Luca Changretta. The Italian mobster, a man who believed he had Tommy cornered, walks into the lion's den thinking he is the hunter. But look at the architecture of Tommy's return. He does not come back shouting threats. He does not come back with a plea for peace. He returns with a cold, terrifying clarity that has been forged in the silence of his absence. While Changretta was busy making noise and burning bars, Tommy was moving pieces on a global chessboard. When they finally meet in that dimly lit room, Tommy isn't just a man with a gun. He is the architect of Changretta's total erasure. He reveals that he has bypassed the local war entirely, forming an alliance with Al Capone in Chicago and buying the very men Changretta thought were his loyal soldiers. He didn't just return to the fight, he returned to end it. He used his time away to build a trap so large and so absolute that his opponent didn't even realize the walls were closing in until it was too late. The internal psychology of Thomas Shelby in this moment is the definition of asymmetrical sovereignty. He understands that if you fight your enemy on their terms, you are already losing. By withdrawing and becoming a ghost, he gained the one thing his enemies couldn't: perspective. While they were reacting to the present, he was engineering the future. His return is a performance of absolute dominance because he has already won before he even opened his mouth. He watches Changreta's face transform from arrogance to a hollow, gut-wrenching realization of insignificance. Tommy doesn't feel triumph in the way a common man does. He feels the cold satisfaction of a machine that has functioned perfectly. He proves that the most dangerous man is not the one who is always present, but the one who returns from the void with a weapon you didn't even know existed. He has reclaimed his throne, not by asking for it, but by making any other outcome a physical impossibility. Niccolò Machiavelli, in the 18th chapter of The Prince, provides the philosophical spine for this level of strategic return. He writes that a prince must know how to make use of both the beast and the man. Among the beasts, he should choose the fox and the lion, for the lion cannot defend himself against snares, and the fox cannot defend himself against wolves. Therefore, it is necessary to be a fox to discover the snares, and a lion to terrify the wolves. When you were in your period of absence, you were the fox. You were sniffing out the traps, analyzing the terrain, and building your alliances in the dark. When you return, you must be the lion. Your return must be so forceful, so complete, and so unexpected that it shatters the resolve of anyone who dared to disrespect you in your absence. Machiavelli understood that new benefits do not make great men forget old injuries, and therefore, when you return to your position of power, you must ensure that your enemies are not just defeated, but rendered incapable of ever striking back. You do not return to fix relationships with disrespectful people. You return to occupy a space so high above them that they can no longer reach you. In your modern life, your return is currently a failure of character. When you take a break from someone who disrespected you, you eventually crawl back with an "I missed you" text. When you leave a job, you check your old co-workers' LinkedIn profiles to see if they miss you. You are still seeking their gaze. You are still a slave to their opinion. To reclaim your throne, your return must be an upgrade, not a reunion. If you have been strategically absent from a social circle that devalued you, do not return until you have achieved something that makes you unrecognizable to them. Do not tell them you've been working out. Show them a physique that looks like it was carved from granite. Do not tell them you're making money. Show up in a state of mind that reflects a new level of financial sovereignty. Apply this to your professional trajectory. If you were passed over for a promotion and you chose the sovereignty of the exit, do not look back at that company until you are in a position to buy it, compete with it, or hire their best talent away from them. Your return to the field of battle should be marked by a Shelby-esque silence. You don't need to explain where you were or what you were doing. The results are your explanation. When they see the new version of you, the one that doesn't react, the one that doesn't seek approval, the one that is as cold and calculated as the winter Birmingham air, the disrespect they once felt for you will transform into a visceral, gut-level fear. They will realize that while they were playing in the mud, you were building an empire. You are no longer the man they can ignore. You are the storm they must survive. Command the respect that is yours by right of conquest, or do not bother returning at all. Real power is not a scream in a crowded room. It is the sudden, chilling drop in temperature when the most important person walks out and doesn't look back. Thomas Shelby did not become the king of Birmingham by being loud, by being available, or by being liked. He became a king by being indispensable, and then weaponizing the void left by his departure. He understood that the human mind is a vacuum that will fill an absence with its own deepest fears and highest curiosities. By mastering your absence, you have mastered the perception of your value. You have shifted from being a background character in the lives of others to being the architect of your own sovereign reality. Your absence is the only mirror in which disrespectful people can truly see the depth of their own insignificance. Starting today, you are no longer a shadow that follows the lead of others. You are the sun, something that provides the light of your presence only on your own terms, something that cannot be looked at for too long without consequence, and something that leaves the world in a cold, desperate darkness the moment it sets. Do not fear the void. Embrace it. Use it. Rule from it. The game of power is won by the man who can endure the silence the longest. If you have understood the weight of these strategies and are ready to apply the next level of psychological warfare, your next transmission is waiting. Prepare yourself for The Art of the Machiavellian Poker Face, where we will dive into the mechanics of facial sovereignty and the lethal power of the unreadable gaze. The world is watching. Make sure they see nothing but the mask of a king.